Welcome to the House of Truth. And this week today we're continuing our series about the end times as foretold by the fall holidays. Last time we looked at how Yom Teruah gave us a warning, as a picture giving us a warning to be listening for the trumpet. We're going to meet Yeshua, or Jesus, if you prefer, or Yeshua, if you prefer, in the air. That's the key phrase. We're going to meet him in the air, and how, according to Yeshua, those who are worthy would escape all these things, the tribulation that we looked at in reference to the tribulation. But today we're going to look at the next phase. And we're going to look at the time of the Antichrist. How the Antichrist is going to do things in his kingdom, and why that period is called the tribulation. And we're going to start in the Torah, in Deuteronomy 4:27 through 30. And the Lord shall scatter you among nations; you shall be left few in number among the heathen, where the Lord shall lead you. And there you shall serve gods, the works of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see nor hear nor eat nor smell. But from there you shall seek the Lord your God, you shall find him, if you seek him with all your heart, with all your soul. And when you are in tribulation, all these things are come upon you, even in the latter days. Return to the Lord your God, and shall be obedient unto his voice. So I want you to notice here that the first time the word tribulation is used is in connection with Israel, the people of Israel. And we know it's the tribulation because it's not just generally trouble, it's the latter days, the days of the last generation. So we're talking about the tribulation. So it's not a Christian concept, it's not a New Testament concept, it's not something charismatics made up, or some people trying to sell books or something. It's not something new. It actually starts in the Torah, and it starts about Israel. And I want to explain that word tribulation for a moment. The word tribulation comes from the word tribuline, and a tribuline was a device people stood on when threshing wheat. Barley, you could just toss into the air, and because it was a soft outer shell, the wind blowing would separate the chaff from the wheat, the chaff from the grain. So the chaff would fall off from the wind. But wheat's shell is hard, so you could toss it up and you can winnow it all day, throwing in the air for the wind to blow, and it will not separate the wheat it will not separate the grain from the chaff. So what you have to do is break that hard outer shell, the hard chaff first. So I had a device called a tribuline, which is basically a board with a bunch of rocks embedded in it. The person stood on it and ran over the wheat, crushed it. So the word tribulation indicates literally the crushing. And the crushing's for who? For those who the barley are those who we looked at last week, who would respond to the Holy Spirit alone, and then have to be crushed to be harvested. But the rest had to be crushed to be harvested. And that's where the word tribulation comes from. That's the ideal here. And notice the first thing, it's first used about Israel, to cause them what? To turn to the Lord their God and learn to be obedient to his voice. All right. Now, but it's not just Israel. This time of trouble. We're gonna look for it. Isaiah 24:4 through 6. Yeshayahu, if you prefer. The earth mourns and fades away. The world languishes and fades away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled unto the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore has the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men are left. Now you might think, well, wait, that covenant was just given to the original covenant, yes, but the new covenant was given to the world, was given first to Israel, but then to the world. Remember, the end cannot come to the gospel spread to all the world. Well, why? Because judgment can't come on them for rejecting something that they never heard. So they've transgressed the laws. They broke the everlasting covenant. Not again. This is about the whole world, Jews and Gentiles. So it's not the covenant that was given to Moses, that God gave to Moshe, but rather the one He gave through Yeshua to the apostles. So because now the gospel went to all the earth had opportunity. And those who rejected, those who would not respond to the Spirit, the gentle blowing to remove the chaff, the things that were not profitable from themselves, to be found worthy, are also going to be crushed. And this is what Yeshua says, confirms here in Matthew 24:21-22. For then there shall be great tribulation, was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no ever shall be, except those days should be shortened. No flesh should be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Well, we just saw that men would be few. The elect's sake. Well, one hand it's talking about Israel, because God made promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and if all of Israel's destroyed, those can't be fulfilled. But on the other hand, it's also about the elect, the believers, because how can they be priests and kings if there's no one left to be priests and no one else to be priests and kings over? Okay, so but this is great tribulation. This is unique, not since the beginning of the world, nor shall ever be. It's unique in all of history. Okay, so now we've established this tribulation is definitely, while it's in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, it's definitely not a New Testament only concept. It actually started in the Torah in Devarim, as we saw earlier, or Deuteronomy if you prefer. Now, next, so how do we understand the tribulation? What's it? And really, it centers mostly around the activities of one man called that we looked at last week. We talked a little about last week, the Antichrist, and how the spirit of the Antichrist are on this earth, and how there's Antichrist, plural, pictures of them. People are Antichrist in their behavior. They're not the Antichrist. And mostly, a lot of where you read about the Antichrist is largely in the book of Revelation. But the book of Revelation, most of the passage about the Antichrist actually refer to the book of Daniel. So if you look at the book of Daniel, a lot of the information about it is actually in the prophets, the Nevi'im, in the prophets, or the Nevi'im, if you prefer, and you have to go look there. So we're going to start in Daniel, and we're going to begin here in Daniel 7:2-6. Daniel spoke and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea, and four great beasts came out of the sea, diverse from one another. The first was like a lion, had eagle's wings. I beheld the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand as the feet of a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second like a bear, raised up on one side, and had three ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and they said thus, arise and devour much flesh. I beheld, lo, another like a leopard, which had the back of it four wings of a fowl. The beast also had four heads, and the menu was given to it. Now we're told in other parts of Daniel, these are identified for us. And these are kingdoms. These beasts are kingdoms. They're kingdoms, but also a little bit about the person in charge who starts the kingdom as well. Sometimes the reference can refer to them. That refers to both the kingdom and the person who started it. And now, the first one is the lion is Babylon. is the Babylonian Empire. And the winged lion is actually a symbol the Babylonians actually used to themselves. So this one here is a lion. It's the Babylonian Empire. The second empire, the one that crushed, that devoured the Babylonian Empire, is the Persian Empire. And Persia in ancient times was known for its fierce bears. Now the third one, so the third one, and it was not fast, but it was strong. Okay, but the third one was not strong, but it was fast, and that was the Greek Empire. Compared to the Persians, they weren't as strong, but they were a lot faster. And notice all these references to 4 wings, double speed, a leopard, 4 heads. And if you remember, the empire split into 4 sections, split into 4. As soon as Alexander the Great died, one of his generals killed his son, and then his 4 generals ended up dividing the empire between them into 4 pieces, just as had been written would happen in the book of Daniel. So remember that. We're talking about Babylon. We're talking about Babylon, Persia, Greece so far. Now, Daniel 7, we're going to continue. Daniel 7, 7 through 8. And I saw to this in the night vision, though the fourth be dreadful and terribly, exceedingly strong, its great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in peace, stamped the rest of the feet of it. It was diverse from the beast before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them a little horn, for whom there was 3 of the first horns plucked by the roots, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the beast of a man speaking great things. So there's a gap here. He still has first 3, there's a gap. Now, in other places, there's a beast of iron. The beast of iron, it's a picture of the Roman Empire. This beast is like the Roman Empire, but it's not the Roman Empire, as we shall see. And part of the key to that is this little horn that pops up. Okay, we're going to see that. This is a future kingdom empire, the empire of the Antichrist. Now we're going to see this all come together when we look in Revelation, where it puts this all together for us. And I stood on the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his 10 horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. His feet were like unto the feet of a bear. His mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, his seat, his great authority. So, first of all, the sea we're talking about here is the Mediterranean Sea, which maybe should give us some clue. This empire is connected to the Mediterranean Sea, as were the others. All of them included 3 countries for certain: Egypt, Assyria, and Israel. And they all bordered somewhere on the Mediterranean Sea. They all included those territories. But notice, so this beast is a combination of the others. 7 heads, 10 horns. Remember, the 10 horns is the same beast. 7 crowns. Now, but notice this empire of the speed of the Greek Empire, the strength of the strength, because the bear's strength is in his claws, not his mouth, his claws. Bears maul people and whatever. In the paws of the bear. Okay, so he's got the strength. He's got the speed of the Greek Empire, the strength of the Persian Empire, and the strength of a lion is its mouth. That's how it kills. Yes, it has claws. They can seriously hurt you, but he kills things with his mouth. He strangles usually, as a matter of fact. So, and that's the Babylonian. So they have the strength of Babylonian too, which was the mouth and so by his words and those kind of things, he was able to get people together. So and wealth. Babylon was known for great wealth. The dragon here, as we shall see, is Hashatan. So the empire, the kingdom of the empire of the Antichrist is a combination of these other empires. It includes much, if not all, of their territories combined. And next week, or my next lesson, we'll go into that a little bit more detail. But notice, so there's 10 horns, and so we're going to look at that in a little bit more detail here. And then Daniel 7:19 through 21. Now the truth of the fourth beast was diverse from the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and his nails of brass, which devoured and broke in pieces and stamped the residue of his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and the other which came up, from before whom 3 fell, even that of the horn, even of that horn, the had eyes and a mouth that spake great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld the same war the saints prevailed against them. Okay, I want you to notice. Remember, iron's Rome, brass is Greek or bronze, because as they made their weapons out of, right? Brass, really, brass might be the word for bronze. So this is a Greco-Roman empire. Okay, it's got Greco-Roman. So, and notice what his thing is. This beast makes war with the saints. He speaks very great things, which we're going to talk about and look at in a moment. And we're going to get a little more explanation about these kings, and what this whole horn business is. In Daniel 7:23 through 25. And he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which is diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth and tread it down and break in pieces. The 10 horns of his kingdom are 10 kings shall arise. Another shall rise after me, shall be diverse from the first. He shall do 3 kings. He shall break great words. He shall speak great words against the Most High. Where are the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given to his hand until times, and dividing of time. Okay, I'm going to explain this. Okay, so first of all, notice it's going to devour the entire earth, the whole earth. So he's going to bring destruction globally. All right. Doesn't mean the empire is global, but the destruction he's going to cause. Okay. Well, these 10 horns are 10 kingdoms, or 10 kings, and 3 are going to rebel. 3 of them he's going to take over. So he's going to subdue them. And again, those he's going to wear out the saints of the Most High. He's going to change the times and the laws. The thing that changed the times and laws, he's going to try to make a false religion that's contrary to the one that God gave Moses, Torah. In particular, he's going to try to enforce this on the Jewish peoples. Is the ideal here, like Antiochus Epiphanes did. And the saints are going to be given to his hand for now. This word time could be translated years, and it could be a year. 3 years and a half is what you end up here dividing. Okay, so in a year, let me explain this momentarily. Just like I talked about with the biblical calendar, a regular month is 30 days. A deficient month is 29 days. But if you just see the month and you're just using it generically, not talking about like the 6th month or the 7th month or whatever. We're not talking about from Kodesh to Kodesh, from new moon to new moon, renewed moon to renewed moon, I should say. But you're just talking about generically, it's 30 days, and a year is a regular year if it's not otherwise, which is 12 months of 30 days. It's not a solar year. It's just a convenience measurement of time here. So what you end up here you're going to end up here with 42 months, is what I'm saying here. the saints are going to be given to him to persecute for 42 months or 1,260 days. Now, these 10 kingdoms, again, I said they're including, I'll go into this more detail on my next lesson, but without a doubt, they have to include, if we're going to go with modern day countries, it would have to be Italy, because that's where Rome's at. Remember, it's a combination of these empires. It'd have to include Italy, Greece, Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Egypt. Without a doubt, without a doubt, it'd have to include those 7, and plus 3 others, which most likely, which probably would be France, Spain, and France, Spain, and Libya in the modern world. But we don't. That's not certain. I'm just saying we kind of balance it out. But it's got to be those, because it's got to be those for certain, because that's where all the headquarters of these other countries of these were, and what connects them all together. And again, I'll go into more detail on that next time. It gives you an idea. But the important thing here is he's going to wear out the saints for 4.5 months. And this is, again, what we see in Revelation 13 verses 7 through 10. It's putting this all together for us. And it was given to make war with the saints and overcome them. Power is given them over all countries and nations, tongues and nations. All that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of the Lamb of life, slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leads into captivity shall go in captivity. He that kills the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience of the faith of the saints. Okay. Yahuwah, Yahweh, God, however you say it in your language, has decreed he's going to get 42 months. He's going to overcome the saints. And during that time, he's going to appear to be winning. Okay. Eventually, those that take people captive are themselves going to go in captivity. Those that kill are going to be killed. Okay. But in the short run, he's going to run the winning. The saints, their patience is knowing that even though he's winning, he's killing them, he's not going to win in the end. Him and his forces. Okay, now we're going to look at the next. We're going to look at the next thing about. We're going to look at the next thing about the king, about the time of the Antichrist. How he's going to operate. How things are going to go for him. Daniel 9:26 through 27. After 80 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince shall destroy the city. The prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and end there with the flood. And unto the end of the war, desolation is determined. He shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. In the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice of oblation to cease. And for the overspringing of the abomination shall make it desolate, even the consummation. And that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Okay, well, here's the thing. The people of the prince that shall come are ones who do what? Destroy the city and the sanctuary. And so it'll say, crucified Messiah. Well, the Romans had more than one legion. So their legions weren't all from Italy, so they weren't all Romans in the sense of being from the city of Rome, okay? They had multiple legions. They weren't even necessarily all citizens in a legion. In fact, that's one way they try to do that. Remember, a centurion, one of the centurions, Paul encountered, said he'd bought himself citizenship with a great cost. So what he was in the army, he became rich. Then he had to buy his citizenship. So so the 10th, for instance, the 10th Legion was composed of people from the Middle East that were in the Roman Middle East, including Assyria. These are the people that actually just, and they were not only the legion in charge of Israel. The Messiah was killed, but they also helped destroy the temple in Jerusalem later. So just because it says people of the prince doesn't mean doesn't mean that those people are Romans. It just means that the people that he's an descendant of, the same people came to destroy Jerusalem. And again, the 10th Legion was largely Middle Eastern, particularly from Assyria, which today would be part of Assyria, the modern countries of Syria and Iraq, for the most part. Okay, so it's actually Mogul, sorry, where ISIS was headquartered, was right across the river from Nineveh. So it gives you an idea who we're talking. We're talking like people like from ISIS. Now I want you to notice here, but here's the main thing. He's going to make a covenant. The tribulation. Nowhere does it say the tribulation 7 weeks. Where you'll get that is it says he confirms a covenant with many for 1 week. Well, what kind of covenant? He's talking about with the Jew, with many, but it concerns Israel. This covenant with many nations around there. He's going to give a false peace to Israel. Give a false peace to Israel with this covenant, so they can build temples up and so on and so forth. But in the middle of the week, and again, this week, remember these weeks are years. So after 7 years, he's going to make a 7-year covenant. In the middle of it, 3.5 years, he's going to cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. So he's in the middle of. He's going to break that covenant. And he's going to make the temple desolate of true believers. They're all, of followers of Yahweh. They're all going to. And it's going to go that way until it's all over, until the end, until the consummation, till the whole matter is resolved. So in Revelation 6:1 through 4, we're going to see some more about this. We're going to see that these tied together. And when I saw the Lamb open one of the seals, I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder. One of the 4 beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he sat on him, had a bow and a crown given him. He went forth conquering to conquer. We opened the 2nd seal. I heard a 2nd beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him to set there and to take peace from the earth, to kill one that was given to him with a great sword. Okay, so before the Antichrist can make this covenant, then break it halfway through, the 7-year agreement, then break it halfway through, he has to be in power. So here he is. These horsemen are him coming to power. First of all, he goes out to conquer. Well, how's he conquer? By war. And notice, he takes peace from the earth. We looked at this earlier. He doesn't just this war is World War III. I mean, it's bigger than World War I and II put together. That's why it says a great sword. Remember, a sword is figurative of war and destruction. Great war and destruction he's going to bring. Which brings us to Revelation 6:5 through 8. When he opened the 3rd seal, I heard a 3rd beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and the sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see you hurt not the oil and the wine." And when he opened the 4th seal, I heard a voice of the 4th beast say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name its name was Death, and hell followed on with him. And power was given to them over the 4th part of the earth, to kill the earth with sword, with hunger, with death, and with the beasts of the field. So this war, war is war. Win or lose, you want to play that game on the other guy's field, because it's very destructive, particularly modern warfare. And it causes crops to get burned and everything else, that kind of thing, and and just devastates the food supply. And so this war is going to cause great famine. Now, a penny's not a penny like an American penny; it's about a day's wages. So it's a day's food for a day's work. This is basically the ideal here. If you're a minimum wage worker, you're going to work all day to get just enough food to live on. You're not going to have any money for anything else. because of this famine that's going to be created. It's so terrible from all this war. And as a result, of course, of this war, of him going forth to conquer, starting a huge war to do it. And it's hard to understand how that war would happen with all these alliances we have, like NATO and everything. The United States is going to get sucked. It would get sucked in, and so all these other countries. And how it's going to kill 1/4 of people on Earth with the sword from the war, with hunger from and death and the beasts of the field. So they're just going to die of disease and whatever. And the beasts of the field. Now that's interesting. The beasts of the field are going to finish some people off. They too are going to be because the damage, like these predators, their prey is going to be gone from some of this war, perhaps starved off as well, and they're actually going to attack people. So that's how the Antichrist is going to rise, and this isn't overnight. We know it's a global war. It's going to take 2 or 3 years for him to rise. So the tribulation is not a period of 7 years, if I'm only betrayed. That's from when he makes the covenant forward. It takes a year, 2, 3 to rise. And next lesson, I should say, I'll go a little deeper into why. And I'll go a little deeper into showing that this is the case for the prophetic picture given by the feast, the Moeds, the appointed times that God's given in Leviticus 23. Okay, now we're going to look forward. Now we're going to move on in Daniel. Look at the next aspect of the Antichrist. Okay, he's taking control. He's made a covenant. Now what? But he's going to make things desolate. Well, how does he do that? We're going to start looking at those details of how does he make things desolate. What is this abomination of desolation? And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god. He shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods. Shall prosper until the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined above all. Neither shall regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor neither regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his state he shall honor the God of forces, a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, with silver, with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus he shall do in the most strongholds of the strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause him to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. Okay, so I want you to notice something about this guy. So we're kind of looking at his religious program at this point. The God of gods is Yahuwah, Yahweh, God. To say in English, the Father. He's going to speak. He's going to blaspheme him. And he's going to prosper, notice, till the indignation shall be accomplished. We're going to look at what that indignation is. So everything's going to go well for the Antichrist. Everything's going to go his way until a certain point when it's all downhill from there. We're going to look at what that point is in a moment. But notice, he does not regard the God. This should be lowercase. Just like God of force should be lowercase. This is not Yahuwah he's talking about. The God of his fathers is not Yahuwah. He's not a Jew, which we'll go into more detail next week. Okay, he's not his fathers did not follow Yahuwah. They followed idols or whatever. He doesn't regard the desire of women. So he's perhaps a homosexual. He doesn't regard any God because he himself is going to magnify himself above all that. But there is one God he honors, the God of forces. And again, that should be lowercase g. It's not Yahuwah here he's talking about. Yahweh, the Father. He's talking about a different God. And this is a new God. A God that his fathers did not know. Not the one of his ancestors, a different God. A strange God. Strange, unknown to his ancestors. And so this is kind of his religious program. We're going to look a little bit more into his religious program here and how that affects everything. Okay. Now, 2 Thessalonians 2, 8 through 12, we get some more insight into this. And then that wicked shall be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders, with all deceivableness and of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, they might be saved. For this cause God shall send them a strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. They might be damned who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. So I want you to notice here, that wicked, of course, is the Antichrist here. Look at this context. And notice he is, again, this is about his religious system as much as anything. His power is after the working of Satan. Okay, Satan is going to give him. He's going to have notice lying wonders, lying perhaps in two ways. One in the Torah, God did say he would allow false prophets to actually do miracles, and they even get true prophets to come to pass, but not in his name, to test to see if they would follow, if they would stick with who of God the Father or not. But so remember, the message of the gospel is confirmed with signs and wonders to confirm the message. Well, this is a different message being confirmed with signs and wonders, lying in that sense, but also they may not be real. They may not be real at all. Some of these wonders, like when a magician, I want to say David Copperfield, I can't remember, made the Statue of Liberty, disappear. Well, the Statue of Liberty didn't really disappear; it was really there, but it was an illusion. He made it look like it disappeared. It may look like these things have occurred and didn't. They could be lying in that sense too, that they didn't really occur. But regardless, it's the point is that the seed is to tell the unrighteous a message he's giving. You can just do what you want, and because they want to believe that, because they have pleasure in righteousness, they will not receive the love of the truth. So they're going to believe this lie. And now we're going to look at the God of fortresses very clearly here. We already seen it. We already seen some clues, but now it's going to be spelled out for us. Revelation 13:3-4. And I saw one of the heads that were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power to the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, "Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" Okay, so I want you to notice some things here. So his head's wounded, deadly wounds healed. Okay, there's a sign. There's one of these lying wonders. Perhaps he tells people he's immortal, or whatever the case is. Or he's Antichrist. He's Messiah. I died and came back to life. Okay. Well, how does he do all this stuff? The dragon we know is Hashatan. We already saw it comes out of the working of Satan. So they worship the beast. So this how it puts it, exalts him above God, and all it's called God. He is going to be worshipped like God. And notice what people say, who can make war with him? We already saw he rises by killing one out of 4 people on earth die for this war he causes. So no one's really willing to go against the war with him at this point. Now we're gonna really get down to the abomination of desolation. We're gonna look at that. We saw a little expression kind of like that earlier. We're gonna get down to a little bit more how that comes about. Daniel 12:1-4. At that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, stand for the children of your people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was. There was a nation even at the same time. At that time your people shall be delivered, everyone that's found written in the book. And men that sleep in the dust shall wake, some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But you, O Daniel, shut the word, seal the book, even to the time of the end. And they shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So I want you to notice here, this time of trouble, the tribulation we're talking about, this is the time of the Antichrist. That it's a time of trouble like none others. It's a time like no other. But those who are found in this book are going to be delivered. But notice Daniel has to shut up and seal the book. He cannot, even the time of the end, he couldn't reveal everything. In Revelation, we get a little more, and some of it we won't know till it occurs. But this is an important, super important clue to when this is going to happen. This little phrase, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Well, we are always moving about, and knowledge has always been increasing, but it's talking about in an extraordinary way. And think about today, most of history, let's say time of Sir Isaac Newton. He died in 1723. The fastest people could go on land was by a horse, 35 miles an hour. A boat, maybe not. I don't think the boats didn't go that fast. So let's say top speed is 35, 40 miles an hour. What's top speed today people can travel? Well, they had the limit Concorde jets because, they even built one that was the hypersonic jet that was even faster, but because it's just too destructive to, they just couldn't find enough people to make it economically. You could go to New York to Paris in 45 minutes on the hypersonic jets. Well, okay, so it actually left the atmosphere, went across the stratosphere, and came back down. So speed, increase in speed, and increase in knowledge until more relatively modern time. Today, I'll put it this way: today, the amount of knowledge the human race has collectively, thanks to the internet and these type things we built, is doubling roughly every 18 months. Prior to the internet, its proliferation, 100 years ago, let's say, up to about 100 years ago, the collective knowledge of the human race doubled maybe every 3 or 4 centuries. Okay. So this is a clue again at the time of the end. The end is about to begin, and it's key for the Antichrist to be able to operate and do the things he does, or the things that occur during his kingdom. We'll look at that a little bit more. I'll explain that a little bit more in a moment here. Okay, Daniel, one thing you need all that speed so you can conquer the war, so you can go that giant world war we talked about. That's one thing. But now we're going to look at some more. We'll look at some more in the other aspects in a little bit here. Now, Daniel 12, 5 through 8. We're going to continue on here in Daniel 12. And I, Daniel, looked, and behold, and there stood 2 other, the one on this side of the river, the other on that side of the river. And one said the man clothed in linen, which is upon the waters of the river, how shall it be to the end of these wonders? I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, beheld his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that lives forever, that it shall be times and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. I heard, but I understood not. And I said, "Oh my Lord, what shall be the end of these things?" Okay, so Daniel's continuing on this vision here, and what he says is this phrase, time and a half. Remember, that's what we saw the Antichrist is going to do. If he breaks the middle of the week, and there's this period after that. And what's the purpose of that? To accomplish this, to scatter the power of the holy people. So their power is going to be scattered again. Remember the covenants concerning the temple in Israel, but it's going to get scattered. Now let's take a look at this here in Daniel 12, 9 through 13. He said, "Go your way, Daniel, for the words are closed up still to the time of the end. Many shall be purified, made white, and tried. But the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. And from the time that the daily sacrifice should be taken away, and the abomination that makes desolate shall set up there, should be 2,290 days. Blessed it waits and comes to 1,345 35 days, 530 days. And you shall go your way into the end, be at rest, and stand in your lot at the end of the days. So let's just take this a little bit at a time. Okay, so then he's not going to answer Daniel exactly because it's all sealed up to the end. But he's going to give him a little bit of information that people are going to some people are going to become purified and made white and tried. That through this they're going to become righteous. Remember, we talked about last time apostasy. And we understood it as being a great apostasy. Maybe give examples of why we said great. Okay, wasn't just a few people. All right. Well, some of them are going to be forced to make a decision, and they're going to choose Yah, and they're going to be totally committed, and they're going to be purified of that apostasy. Okay, made white and tried. But others are just going to continue to do more wickedly. Now the wise are going to be the ones that make this change. But what begins all that? The daily sacrifice being taken away and the abomination of desolation that's set up. And so keep that in mind. That's when this purification process is going to start. So the desolation is going to happen for 30 days, longer than that time and a half we looked at. So that's going to go on, and we'll explain what goes on those first 1,260 days here in a minute. But 30 days later, it's going to be desolate till 30 days later. It's going to take a little cleanup time after that. And then notice, he that waits 345 more days, 45 more days, is going to be blessed. So, and we'll talk about next week what happens at the end of those extra 45 days. Okay, but keep that in mind, that timeline. So we got this daily. So we got the daily sacrifice is being taken away. It's going to be taken away in the middle of the week, and there's an abomination that's going to make the temple desolate. It's going to be set up. Now we're going to go to the words of Yeshua, Matthew 24:15 through 20, where he talks about this abomination of desolation. We're going to look at now we're going to get some more clues about how that's going to play out. When you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whosoever reads, let him not understand. Let them which are in Judea flee into the mountains. Let them which are in the rooftop come not to take anything out of his house. Let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. Woe to them that were a child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray your flight be not in winter, neither on the Sabbath day. Okay, so this abomination of desolation, Yeshua said, it's not just he's going to attack the Jews. They're going to flee. This is similar to the advice that Yeshua gave in Luke 21, where he warned them, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, run to the hills. Let them in Judea run to the hills, which believers did. In fact, they started even running before when they saw things were heading that way. A lot of them started going to a place called Pella, which was in the Decapolis, which is in modern day Jordan, which turned out to be a refuge because the Romans were destroying Jewish cities, but they would destroy Pella because it's a Greek city. And a lot of Greek believers brought these Jewish believers in. So, but it's the same sort of thing. Run for your life. Now, notice this commandment to pray. I talked about this in praying like the master. He's telling you. So I've been praying that when this occurs, notice it's not set in stone. We don't point to pray otherwise. Now, this does not occur in the winter. Why the winter? Because in Israel, well, there's not much food in the winter. There's not much food for animals or people growing wild. There's not much water. You got a rainy season before and after winter, but you don't get any rain during the winter. you even ask for dew in the summer, but in the winter it's just dry as it can be. So it'd be a lot harder, not on a Sabbath day, because, well, some people would be slow to leave and they'd be in a synagogue and may not know what's going on. And some would just refuse to run because it's a Sabbath day. So so minimize the casualties, pray for those things. But also, I've been praying for the days leading up to this, there'd be unusually low birth rates. That you don't have a bunch of pregnant women, and of course that's going to hinder them from running, particularly if they're very far along, particularly, or those with young babies. It's really hard to run carrying one of those. Or maybe their instincts going to be run and get back, run to their house, get the baby. And look, he says, you don't have time to get your clothes. You don't have time to do anything. Don't take anything out of the house, okay? If you're on the rooftop, don't even run to your house to get something out of the house. Just get off the top of your roof and run and head for the hills. Of course, mothers aren't going to do that with their children, with their babies. So this is not just something happens. I mean, this is an attack on the people of Israel itself to wipe them out. The whole thing was a ruse. Now, and here's where the prosperings, and here's what he does that actually causes this desolation, abomination. 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there be first a falling away, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself all above all that is called God, and that is is worshipped, so that he as God sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. So not only is he exalted above God, above everything that's called God, it doesn't mean just Yahuwah, Yahweh, Hashem. It means the Father, but everything. But he sits himself as the Father. He's going to sit in the temple as the Father and show that he is the Father. He's going to say, "I am God." That's what's going to make, and that's the abomination of desolation. And notice again that falling away I talked about last week. And perdition is just a King James word for utter destruction, okay? This man of sin, this is his thing. He's not just going to be worshipped. He's saying this for an Antiochus Epiphany. He set up an image of himself in the temple. No, he himself is going to sit in the temple. He's going to go into the Holy of Holies and claim to be God. He's prosperous, and remember, he prospers up to that point. It's all downhill from in the time of the Antichrist to the Antichrist after that. In Revelation 13:5-6 gives us more about this desolation. That's why the day of sacrifice is cut off. And there was given to him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. Power is given to continue 42 months. And they opened his mouth and blasphemed against God. This blasphemed his name, his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. Okay, so notice he's only able to continue doing this for 42 months, or 1,260 days. Remember, there's 1,290 days. So something's going to cause him to have to leave after that time. And then there's going to be a 30-day period when the temple is going to be cleansed. And why that's important, we'll look at next time. We'll look at next time that why the temple has to be cleansed. And then there's 45 more days after that till it's all over. But notice what he does during that time. He blasphemies against God, his name, and his tabernacle. I mean, one way he's blaspheming, saying he's God, it's his tabernacle, the Antichrist's tabernacle. And then they dwell in heaven, okay? So he's going to rant against not just God and Yeshua, but the angels, the saints that they're now there up there with Yeshua. He's going to rail against them. He's going to speak badly of them, and so on and so forth. And now we're going to drill down lastly into this abomination that's going to bring It's all downhill from after that. And we're looking at how his religious program is going to work in those last that last half of the year, that last 1,260 days. Revelation 13:11 through 14. I beheld another beast coming out of the earth. He had two horns like a lamb. He spake as a dragon. He exercised all the power of the first beast before him and caused the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. He does great wonders, so they make fire come down from heaven in the sight of men. And the season to dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles they have power to do in the sight of the beast. Saying that dwell on the earth, they should make an image of the beast that had the wound by the sword and did live. Okay, so we have this false prophet arising. And notice, two horns like a lamb. He seems gentle, perhaps, but he speaks deception like a dragon. Remember, the dragon's picture of Satan, or serpent, you could say. As the Native Americans out where I live would say, he speaks with a forked tongue. Okay? So, and notice he can do everything, he can do everything that the Antichrist can do. So he's going to cause, his goal is to cause everyone to worship the Antichrist. And he's going to do signs, and one of them is going to cause fire to come down from heaven. And, perhaps even destroy some of his, perhaps in some sort of destructive manner. So his goal is to so he's the head of the religion, to get everyone to worship the beast. Now in Revelations 13:15 through 18, we see some more about this religion. He had power to give life to the beast and to the image of the beast, that the beast should both speak and cause his men who not worship the beast should be killed. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, in their forehand, that no man might buy or sell, so that he that had the mark and the name of the beast and the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let us understand, count the number of the beast. For as the number of a man, his number is 666. 666. So, I want you to notice this. Now, this might be totally supernatural. I'm not discounting that. But it could also be some technology involved, like an android. I mean, if John saw that, he would have no understanding of that. So, because remember, he's seeing into the future. So, to us, that might make sense to me. But regardless of how it is, it works with people. And it's not the Antichrist that causes people to get the mark of the beast. It's the false prophet. Okay? The false prophet is the one that tells them they must get this mark. So, this mark, they cannot buy it right. Now, notice you get some options here. Right hand or forehead, two places. And maybe you get options of what it looks like. You get the mark, or you can get the name of the beast, or you can get the number of his name. And those three could actually be combined. Let me explain to you. If you look at in Arabic, in most languages, are not like English, where you have a separate set of characters for numbers and letters. In fact, our letters are called Arabic numbers. Our numbers are called Arabic numbers. And we're actually letters in Arabic. They also doubled as numbers. And we made a separate set of characters. That saves confusion, but it's not true in most languages, like Roman numerals. In an Arabic, to a non-Arabic reader, Allahu looks like a single Allah. A lot of Americans say Allah. Looks like looks like a mark. It's all Randy, it's cursive style. It's the name. And also, those letters, some of those letters in there are numbers, and particularly, they form 666. Now, I'm not saying that that's the mark, okay? Don't get me wrong. Remember, there's types of the Antichrist, like there's types of Messiah, there may be a type of the mark, it's like this. But it gives you the idea of how the mark, the name, and the number can all be the same thing, or they may be three separate things, which would give you people 6 options. and 6 being the number of man being born on the sixth day. In fact, the whole idea of 666 is Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, and Satan, Antichrist, false prophet, that man is God. But regardless, this is who's in charge of this worldwide religion of the Antichrist that happens. And I want you to notice, nowhere does it say all of the earth. It says it's implied in his kingdom. And now we'll look some more at that next week. Or next lesson, I should say, which will be a week from now. But yes, next lesson. Revelations 24 through 5. We're going to end. We're going to look at the end of how things can go, how the Antichrist can run his kingdom in the time of the Antichrist. Revelations 24 through 5. And I saw thrones, they sat upon them, and judgment was given them. I saw the souls that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God, which had not worshipped the beast or his image, neither received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. They lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. For the rest of the dead lived not again till the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Okay, so there's only two groups. Those in Israel who endure those 45 extra days are called blessed. The other group called blessed is these are beheaded for the witness of Jesus. Remember, those are purified, made white by what? This persecution. In particular, this choice about the mark. They have to make a decision. And many of them do. So, and many of them do. And they're the last of and they end the first resurrection, which is the whole other lesson that started with Yeshua and ends with them. And so if you're going into the tribulation, if you're not in that group that meets in the air, and you're on the earth still, and you go through this, the only blessing, it's called blessed, except for some of the people of Israel who go those 45 days. That's who that was talking about in Daniel. Otherwise, the only way to be blessed, and particularly blessed with a resurrected body for anyone, is to be beheaded for not taking the mark. Okay? There's nowhere we're commanded to survive the tribulation. The blessing is not from surviving, it's from dying for the witness of Yeshua and against the Antichrist. And that is what will bring about the end of his times. Now, that's what will lead to the end of his times, I should say. So that's it till next week when we talk about the redemption of Israel. Shalom.